Hello and welcome, everyone. Welcome to another Solution Sunday, because being the soul that you are is the solution. We are all grand beings of light here experiencing life in human form. And today, the human form that is here with me is my friend, Matt Rigsby. Matt is the owner of Kookaburra Rafting in Salmon, Idaho. And we're going to talk all things rafting, going with the flow, nature, high vibe, shifting consciousness. And we're just going to have a fun, enlightening conversation. Matt, welcome.
Thank you, Lisa. This is a very warm introduction.
We like to have fun here. So I love that you are a rafting guide. A few of our friends that you know, Keith, Mara, who are also guests of mine here on Solution Sunday, and a few others were treated to a nice rafting adventure on the Hudson River by our friend Rachel's son and Andrew, and we all had such an amazing time rafting. And I learned so many things just by observing how he navigated the river and how he talked about, finding that current. And I really think it's such a great metaphor for life, because life is supposed to be fun and connected to nature, and like we should be able to easily go with the flow, because that's really the grand design. So I love that analogy. What got you into rafting?
Well, that's complicated, I guess, but I started out kayaking, whitewater kayaking, and just have had a love for nature. Grew up in the mountains of Colorado for the most part, and have been skiing since I was a little kid. And there's just it's purity whenever it's just you and nature. There are no judgments or prejudices or anything like that. Nature just wants to be enjoyed for all that she gives us. And rafting is a transition from kayaking to rafting, partially because it's hard to make a living as a kayaker. But also because it gave me the opportunity to share this gift, and I didn't realize how important it was to share it when I was just kayaking. I just knew I loved it, and it might not be for everybody. And at the time, I wasn't trying to uh, identify why I loved it necessarily, or give it a definition. I just knew I liked it and kept going back and back and back. And even when I was working, I used to be in the corporate world. In the 90s and early 2000s, I was a network engineer and did a whole bunch of high level consulting work for big corporations. And all my time that I was at work, I spent thinking about being outside, and that all my energy that I could have been focusing on to work was planning my trips that I was going to do as soon as I got out of work. And then actually my father passed away of a sudden heart attack in 1999, and he was only 50 years old and saving for retirement and a bunch of stuff that he never got to do. So it's weighing on me that this could happen to me. And it took a few years, and some events happened. Actually, writing a book about that now.
Awesome.
uh, but changed my life in a very profound way. This happening to him and a whole bunch of other stuff that happened. But I just knew that what I was doing didn't feel right. I was just working for a paycheck, and it wasn't fulfilling, even though it was a big paycheck. And I was doing a lot of the work I did was gratifying when I got to be creative and build a network or things like that. But just the managing it and putting out any fires that may come up definitely wasn't fulfilling. So it did take a few years, but I ended up quitting my corporate career. I I was married to a Brazilian gal at the time that was a chemical engineer, and she could afford the house we were living in without my assistance. I was kind of hoping she would come along for the ride, but I knew that I couldn't live in the city anymore, and just couldn't do it. In, in fact, I wasn't seriously contemplating suicide, but it was something that was in my head, like this has to end. And if this is my life, I don't want to live this life. I don't care how much money is here, And so I needed some healing from in a different sense than what most people think of. But and that came by communing with nature in every way. I got into rock climbing, mountain biking. I have been since I was young. Just the visceral connection. I mean, everything I've come to learn now that my connection to all this stuff is because we share a consciousness. Even whenever you're climbing a rock, you can feel the energy in that rock, and it's there. It's communicating with you, and when you acknowledge it, then it gives you a gift, which is true with all of nature, and even from the smallest microbe to the most beautiful tree. When we I learned to embrace the intelligence of nature.
Wow.
Yeah, and I know the question was how did I get into rafting? So this is all getting to that point, but it was a way. It started out as just a way that I was testing different things to do for a living that did not involve the corporate world or being in a city or being indoors at all. And I pursued my first thing that I did end up trying to get Sonia to join me on my mission to sell everything, quit our jobs, and move to the mountains. And he didn't necessarily want to do that, and so we were growing apart at that point. Anyway, I have different long-term goals to say, and so I gave her the house and everything that didn't fit in my truck, and I drove to West Virginia, which is where the whitewater mecca is, and I only lived 4 hours from there. So I've been going and playing. I was kind of a weekend warrior in West Virginia, but they have the biggest whitewater that you can run commercially in the U.S. on the Gauley River, which is a really, really special place in my heart and many others. So I had basically a childhood dream of joining ski patrol, which I put on hold because of life circumstances. And then when I came to this transition in my life, I decided it's time to pursue that. And so the rafting thing was in the background as something that I'll do next summer after I get to ski. But my whole life at that point was more focused on skiing, and rafting was just going to be something that I did in the off season to make ends meet. And after I did end up working on ski patrol that first winter, moved to West Virginia, and then I moved to a rafting company and wasn't even sure if I was going to be a guide or a video kayaker, because out there they have a guy in a kayak that videotapes the rafting trips, and that's one of the ways that I could have made a living. When you live with a rafting company, it's free, so I didn't need to make a lot of money. When I was living the corporate life, I met a lot of people that I didn't meet anybody that seemed truly happy with like anything that I find important. There was a lot of material happiness, but nothing that seemed of any substance to me. And I actually met one extremely wealthy man that you can read about in the book, but he was going to make me a millionaire. This guy was a billionaire himself, took me under his wing when I was doing computer stuff, and I patented a wireless thing for his dressage farm, which dressage, for those that aren't familiar, is when horses like moonwalk and do ballet and stuff like that. Uh, it was pretty cool, but I got to see and be around that, in what the world around the big money is, and that world was not appealing to me. I saw he didn't have any genuine relationships, and the people that he was calling friends were just kissing his butt, really, and there was nothing genuine about that. I was actually became friends with his children, and they were my age, and they were all just using dad for whatever to do, and I would hear what the stuff they said to him was not what I was witnessing, and it was all just so that they could get money and stuff like this. Everything just became evolved around money. I definitely didn't want that to be my world. Still don't. We need it for obvious reasons, but when that becomes all you're doing with your life, then it's just not fulfilling. And there's a big empty space that big empty space for me would have been love. And I don't want my love space to be empty. I want it to be full. And the only way to do that is by having authentic, genuine relationships and that don't evolve around money or have anything to do with that. So I gave up, a lot of money, and then went and lived in the woods in the summer. In the winter, they did give me employee housing, and I was going to go. Summer, it's like, okay, let's learn how to be poor again. and I embraced it. Actually, it turned out to be the best thing ever. And then my rafting experience, I took some folks. I did it a little bit socially, but it never guided. I did end up commercially without really trying too hard. A lot of guides go through a lot of training and things like that to become guides. But I think with my kayak background, the learning curve was pretty easy. And I remember the first trip I guided people down the river and the joy that we all shared together. And it was all just in nature. There were, we don't talk about life problems, politics, none of that stuff is even present in our experience on the river. And it's just us communing with nature. And the joy that brings out of everybody that you get to share is so much more powerful than the joy that you get from a big payday, So I learned to embrace that, and I quickly came to the conclusion that I am doing what I love every day. So if I had a bazillion dollars, what would I be doing every day? I'd be going skiing all winter, and I'd be going boating all summer, and mountain biking and rock climbing. Why do I need this stressful part when we could just go straight to the source, cut out the middleman? And that was the most amazing, beautiful transition that I've ever had, and it got me to really appreciate the moment rather than what I'm striving for something that I just can't ever grab, like trying to strive for financial success. I am not even sure that that's real. I think that's a myth because people are always want more and more. And you have billionaires that still think they need more money, right? Like what for what? What are you going to do with it? What are you doing with the money that you already have? You're just collecting money. Like this is
right.
a world that I want to be a part of. So,
Yeah, I love that I love when you're talking about the rock climbing and how you can feel the rock, and the rock, you can communicate with the rock,
absolutely.
communicate with all nature. Say a little more about that, because I think there are a lot of people that would like to know more about that. We've been, as humanity, so separated from nature, in search of the financial success, and our attention has been very largely moved away from nature. So a lot of people may not have had this experience.
Yeah, and I mean, we're programmed from a very early age to think that we're separate from nature.
Exactly.
And a lot of people still believe that there's us and then there's nature. And that is not true. And regardless of what you believe, you could look around and see that there is a cycle of life, right? There's a cycle of life, and we are just one of the cogs in this cycle of life. But as conscious beings, we should also be stewards, and keep it going. Everything else but us that I can see gives. It does everything that it can to make the world a better place. If you look at a tree, it's below the ground. The roots are connecting and communicating with other, the mycelium and all of the circuitry that goes beneath the earth through the forests. And then, they have their trunk, which gives the stability to the branches that give life and homes to birds and insects and squirrels and pine martens and all of these things. And then they actually clean the air that we breathe. They're doing nothing but trying to make the world a better place. And they also provide, how we use the wood for housing. We do all kinds of stuff. Like just a tree, right? No, that's actually one of the one of the things that is just giving and giving constantly to make the world a better place, and it makes our life a better place. Um, but when we take care of the earth and become stewards of our surroundings, it automatically brings equanimity. Uh, just once we realize that we're a small part of life in this massive cycle, then it's real easy to understand that giving equals receiving. So whenever you do something to benefit nature, you're going to receive that benefit back because we're all part of the same cycle.
Exactly. I love that. Yeah, this is one of the, I've always lived in nature, and I always find it really hard to be in the city, because there's like so much uh, divergent, conflicting energies in the city. And like, I never can feel that connection. It always feels really artificial to me. Like, it's fun. Like, I used to enjoy going to Denver. I have a really hard time going to New York City anymore. It's like, it's just too much. But nature, there's so much that is grounding and stabilizing. And when we get out into nature, we just feel that connection to source, and it just grounds off all of that static electricity that builds up in our energy field, and it discharges out into nature, and we just feel alive and refreshed.
Yeah, and there's actually some really good science behind that grounding that you're referring to. If anybody's interested, I would refer them to a video called Earthing that dives into the science of why we should be in contact with the earth for medical reasons, healing purposes, that our bodies have evolved for eons when we connected with the earth. And we got all these healing processes happening from the earth. And now that we wear a layer of rubber between our feet and the earth, we don't have that anymore. And there's been a massive uptick in dis-ease since we put that layer of rubber between us and the earth. And for sure, most people that live in cities in the morning, they get up, put their shoes on, walk out the door, and those shoes don't come off till they get back in the house. And they don't ever get the natural grounding effect. And there's a lot more to that. But anyway, yes, it's very important to stay grounded, and our bodies are designed for that. I've lived in some cities and used to enjoy visiting cities as well. And I call it chaos, like it's just energetic chaos, and I try to, as somebody that tries to be sensitive to the energies around me so that I don't, I like to pick up on all the good energies that are around me, and I spend so much time in nature, and they're abundant in nature, if you just tune into them. And once you get yourself into that tuned into nature state, that city energy is conflicting for sure. And which is a big part of why I think it's important for me to start this school that I'm starting. My life has changed dramatically over the last year, but I was trying to arrange my life so I could move on to a sailboat here this fall. I was planning on the rafting company and sailing around the world for 10 years or so. And it was suggested to me, to open a guide school and for kids. And at first, it's intriguing, but it did not fit with what my plan was at all. But it didn't take very long for me to think about it and come to the conclusion that this is the right thing for me to do at this stage that the world is in. There's clearly, chaos all over the place, and it's such a massive, like, on such a big scale. The chaos is on such a big scale that it's really hard to I think everybody wants to do something to help, and I was, of course, one of those people trying to figure out how we could help this. And then as I thought about the guide school, I see this as a tool. It's not near the scale that we need for this planet, but it is a step in the right direction, and it's something that I could do with my skill set and my outfitter's license. And I want to get children back into with nature. Uh, I want to get inner city kids more than anything because they need it the most. And right now, I've witnessed it a lot over the years, especially being in the rafting world, where you get kids that live in cities and come on vacation, and you see first it's shock that I had one kid at one time that he lived in New York City, and so he gets out to where we're going to launch the raft. He's like, "There's just dirt everywhere. I've never seen dirt." And he was 12 years old, and I was, oh my gosh, this is how is this possible? This is a world where this 12-year-old has never even seen dirt before. He did say he'd seen it in planters. He's from New York City, and I get it. It's not healthy. And so my goal here, the end goal, is that I can teach at least 100 kids a year. We have a limited window of weather, when weather cooperates around here. I'm in Idaho on the Montana border in the Rocky Mountains, and the winters are long, but the summers are magical. Mm-hmm. And I know for sure that people that live in cities that don't experience nature, especially at a young age, have the separation where nature is over here and people are over here. And I want to bridge that gap. And the only way that I know to do that is to immerse them in nature. And I know that a lot of people that live in cities, not just kids, are very intimidated by nature, even though it's us. We are nature. And that intimidation comes from the programming that we start receiving at such a young age. And I think the media has a lot to do with it too, because they only air the bad stuff. I've had people like my rafting company, for example, we get a lot of phone calls from people that are hearing about bad weather over in, say, Yellowstone. Like 2 years ago, they had flooding and a bridge washed out. Well, there are two mountain ranges between us, first of all, but we're getting people calling wanting to cancel their reservations because they hear that everything's flooding and it's total chaos. And it's like, actually, it's beautiful here. We were having one of our best seasons that we had in a long time, weather-wise and conditions and everything. Like, this is magic. Don't listen to what you hear on TV. They profit from selling negativity. And the reason that works for them is because the positive stories aren't that interesting. I've been on so many beautiful, successful, amazing rafting trips, but it's not that interesting to watch a successful rafting trip.
It's fun to be participating in it, though.
Absolutely. Yeah. 99.999% of them are successful, but the videos that you'll see are the ones where there's carnage. And I like to watch those carnage videos too. So, but I don't think that we should be living our lives based on things that we hear from the outside world, especially whenever that's the person we're hearing from might have ulterior motives for the information that they're giving. It seems to be pretty common these days. So I'm not sure it's the solution, but it's a step in the right direction in my mind, is to bring the kids, rather than tell them about it. They're not going to read about it. They're going to come do it. And we're going to bring them to a place that is very, very special to me. I know this is a sacred place. The Shoshone that were native to this area for over 9,000 years, called the Salmon River, which is the river that my company is on, and it's the river that we're going to do our school on. They called it the Medicine River. Mm-hmm. And when I've been on a lot of rivers, and they're all special. I've never met a river I didn't like, but this particular river just touches your soul and brings out the best in me anyway. And it doesn't matter what kind of day I'm having, if I'm having a bad day, as soon as I get on the river, all of that goes away. It doesn't matter how big and bad it is either. It could be really, really ugly. As soon as I get in that water, the medicine is delivered and I feel better. And the only way to feel that is to do it and be in it. And I don't want to just give them a little taste of it. I've had so many people that have taken rafting over the years that tell me how lucky I am that this is my life. And in a way that's almost insulting to me because luck had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
I felt that I loved something more than anything else that I was doing in my life. And I've always tried everything. I'm still curious and still trying things to this day. But the things that stick, I get rid of the things that don't feel right and hang on to the things that do feel right. And it kind of lost the thought there for a second.
Yeah, that was always really, really hard for me, like growing up. I grew up in Lake Placid, New York, in the middle of the Adirondack Mountains, and there was so much nature around. And I grew up figure skating, so I spent my entire life in the rink basically, and so I became a really expert figure skater. I was really, really good at it, and I ended up moving to Aspen, Colorado, and being the figure skating director for the city of Aspen for a long time. And my first ever rafting trip was down the Colorado River through Glenwood Canyon and in Colorado, and that was pretty fun. And but when it came time to end my career in figure skating, it was like, now what? Like, now what do I do? Because I needed to be able to make money, but I just looked out at the world and thought, I don't see any job that I want to do. And like the only thing I'm really interested in is consciousness. Like I just want to reconnect. I want to know why I'm here. I want to know how the universe works, but I couldn't quite put together how that was going to come about. But of course, it did come about, and I'm very happy to say that. So I am doing something I really, truly love to do. But I don't think that it's my observation that a very large majority of the world's population is definitely not doing things that they truly love to do.
Yeah, and I think they want to,
Yes.
but a lot of people have been programmed into believing that it's not available to them, this happiness, inner peace. And it's
Exactly.
taken a lot of work for me as well to get to this place. But it's in our nature. We're born with it, and then it's programmed out of us, and then it's a deprogramming process, basically, just to bring us back to our natural state. Um, and yeah, to touch on what you had mentioned about what job do I want, I can't think of a job that I want either. I like what I do now. I don't particularly like working for other people. I just like doing my own thing. And that was me moving on to the sailboat. Felt like it was going to be hollow if I did that at this time, and I couldn't put my finger on why. And now I know it's because I was supposed to pass the torch, basically. So if I were to just pick up and leave and go do my thing, then I'm taking all of this knowledge that I've been accruing over the years, decades, and it doesn't get passed on. And that's not the way we should be progressing as a species. We share the good stuff, and then hopefully the people that we teach will teach others. But to get back to this, so that brings me back to the school, which is my way of not taking all this information with me. In fact, I'm in the process of learning more than I ever imagined that this rafting thing would teach me, about nature, about myself, and about our just
Yeah.
blank.
Yeah, like really, it's our connection to the universe. Because
Yeah,
when we are out in nature, nature is part of the universe. This earth is part of a universe, but our attention has been so narrowed down onto following the rules and do it this and what look over here and check out that disaster over there, that we completely forget the fact that we are part of the universe, like a bigger picture. And I think that that's why, when we go out in nature, we start to realize, oh, wait a minute, there's more. Like there's more to look at, there's more to experience.
So much more, yeah. So my effort to give it back, and this is ultimately, to me, it's all looking out for Pachamama, Mother Earth.
Yep.
So whenever we all get on the right track with Mother Earth, who has done everything she can to nurture us and bring us into existence and then give us a happy, healthy existence, we should appreciate that. And we need to help her back. When you're at home and mom made dinner, you'll help wash the dishes, right? Just a way to pitch in, because we're all part of the same family. And it's to get in tune with nature. I'll come back to this school. We're going to do it in a way that's going to try to make them comfortable from the beginning. And it's so to start, we're going to do CPR, first aid class. And that way, if anything happens, maybe they can help each other, whether it be then or in the future. And I'll start with the school is going to be free for kids 12 to 18 years old. And we're going to, if the funding is there, we're going to do a free week for veterans to help with PTSD, and we're going to do a free week for teachers and just appreciation and get everybody that I would like to get everybody that's underappreciated and underpaid out here, but that's almost all of us. So we got to find somewhere to start.
Wow.
And so, yeah, we're going to start with CPR first aid class. And from there, that's going to be at our local high school, which is already said they're going to make it a class credit for all of the kids in our school district that choose to attend. And then the superintendent is going to talk to the surrounding school districts and get them to do the same. And I feel that it's just going to grow from there. So that will help for sure. Anyway, we're going to go from the school to the river, get in boats, and it's going to be just a really lazy section of river so they can all kind of just feel comfortable. And we're going to learn how to teach them how to guide with oars, which are big, long things, big, long paddles. And then we're also going to teach them how to guide with just a paddle sitting in back, paddle guiding. And it's not necessarily my expectation that these people will become guides, river guides. That's not my goal. My goal is to just get them exposed. And my hope is that by the end of the 5-day course, that they are just totally in love with nature, because we protect the things we love. Doesn't matter if it's your money, your house, your car, your wife, your dog. Let's go with nature. And this is the way to instill that. And so we'll float down to our first camp. And at our first camp, they're going to set up their tents and they're going to get acclimated and familiar with all of the different equipment that goes into camping. After their camp set up, we are going to teach them how to build a fire on a fire pan, which is a safe way to do it. And out here, once you get into the wilderness, everything's protected and you're not even allowed to build a fire on the ground. You have to build it on a fire pan. You have to take your ashes with you. It's truly pack in, pack out, every single thing, even your ashes. And this will also maybe help cut down on some of the forest fires that we've had that are not started by nature. We're going to teach them how to safely put that fire out after they cook their meal with a Dutch oven. That we're going to introduce them to the whole concept of using that fire that comes from nature, cook with this Dutch oven rather than propane. And we're going to teach them 3 different ways to start a fire without matches or a lighter. And the morning fire, we might cheat and use paper because everything's damp. But the afternoon fire for their dinner, they're going to that without a lighter or matches. Every day before we get on the river, we're going to do yoga, 15 minutes of yoga just for grounding, stretching, clearing the head. And every day after we get off the river, we're going to do plant medicines. So we're surrounded by plants that can heal us and get us sick, no matter where you are on the planet, unless you're living in the Sahara Desert, which there's probably some stuff there that'll heal you too. But we're only familiar with what's around here. And there are so many plants that are medicine all around us. In fact, the big pharma, they use those plants and then they sell them back to us. And some of them, they do really nefarious things to before they give them to us. So we're gonna cut out the middleman and show them how to go straight to the source. All about plants. Every day, once we get off the river, it's going to be 30 minutes of plant education. We're not just going to do it on a piece of paper. We're going to walk them over and say, this plant does this. It's called this. It does this. And they're going to get more plants every day. And by the end of the 5 days, we'll have a test. And I'd imagine they'll be able to go home and teach their parents a whole lot of stuff that they don't know. And maybe releasing themselves from the bonds of big pharma, realize that we have everything that we need inside of us, and we have help from the universe, which is nature, and it's all here for our benefit. It's our friend. It's part of us already. We're part of it. We're also going to teach swiftwater rescue skills, which are like if boats flip or get wrapped around rocks, people fall out of boats, how to calmly do what we need to do to rectify that situation. It's pretty mild, and as long as we manage everything properly, then it stays mild. For sure, accidents happen. People fall out of boats, but boats shouldn't be wrapping around rocks if the people are educated properly on how not to do that. So we're going to show them how to fix it when it does happen, but then we're going to teach them how to make sure that it never happens. And then every evening we're going to do meditation for grounding purposes, and a bunch of different types of meditation like visualizations, body scans, things like that, ways to make them recognize the energies that are flowing through them and around them. And create a little awareness to that, or maybe a lot of awareness to that.
Yes, hopefully a lot. There's a huge gap in awareness on humanity about how energy actually works and what the aura around us is. All of this energy that surrounds our bodies that we don't see with our eyes, but that is part of who we are. And
I was oblivious to it. I was oblivious to that for the first 50 years of my life, pretty much.
Yeah, we've never been taught.
Yeah. And then I had someone show me just a little taste of it. And once I was like, oh my gosh, this is very real, it opened up the curiosity. Once I had that curiosity, then I had to go explore more of it. And once I started exploring it, I found out it's everywhere.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, wow. And then once I tapped into that, it doesn't go away. You can't unfeel that. You can't unknow it.
Right.
You get to share it, and then just uplifts everybody. And maybe it's all for selfish reasons too, because whenever the people around me are better people and happier people, it projects I get to be happier. The world that I live in is better. So,
right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
If you're pondering learning about these energies, do it for selfish reasons.
Yes. I remember when I first, I remember, learning about, the earth has an electromagnetic field in high school or whatever. And it was like, yeah, okay, great. This is the atmosphere. And then, but that term electromagnetic field always kind of stuck in my awareness. And then when I learned that thoughts are electrical and emotions are magnetic, it was like, oh, electromagnetic, how I think and how I feel about what I think. Oh my gosh, this is how we're shaping energy all the time. Like that energy is constantly flowing to us and through us. And if we block the flow of the energy, we get sick because the energy's not free to move. And it's like, oh my gosh, like who knew?
Yeah, yeah. And I'm going to translate that to rivers here in a minute. You might have to remind me, but I'll stick to the school for now. um, and then after meditation, where they're going to make their dinner. And then after they finish dinner, we're going to do art class of some form. I've already got several painters that want to come out and do, painting, art, and different types of graphic illustration type stuff. We're also going to do music. Music is going to be a daily activity for us, and we're going to do drum circles. And we're going to have different specialists that come out. We're going to have hand pans and a bunch of acoustic things that we can bang on, because people, especially kids, love to bang on things and get that energy out. And then once we coordinate all that banging, it can turn into music, which turns into just this amazing experience that is all one with nature. And whenever you're making music in nature, she participates.
Right?
And then you get to feel all of that. And once you feel that level of joy from this type of activity, it'd be hard to go back to thinking that, money is the most important.
Yeah.
Because and that's another reason we're going to keep money out. We're going to not charge for this school. I want it to be available to anybody of any background, and it's because we're all born the same, and then we're programmed to think we're different. So we're going to start all be on equal playing ground. It's going to be free for all of us, free for all of them. we're as the adults, we're going to fund this operation, and we can talk about that later too. But yeah, you were talking about blocking the flows of energy. Um, so we can look around the universe, and we've even been to other planets now and see that there are just perfectly round spheres with no texture, smooth balls that don't have mountains. So Earth is very unique in the sense that we have water and mountains. So I believe that the universe created this scenario so it's a machine, and everything is supposed to keep flowing. So the gravity, mountains, and the river are the three elements that keep the machine going. And the mountains are a place where the water gets deposited in the form of snow, melts, gravity brings it down, goes into the rivers, and everything just keeps flowing around the whole planet. Those rivers go to the ocean, which also have current. And this is the cycle of life. And this is why everything has been so magical and beautiful on this planet for millions, billions of years.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever we put dams in the river, you're super arrogant. And I know a lot of the reasons that people do it, and they tell themselves that it's using nature, but it's not using nature the way that nature was intended and wanted to be used.
Exactly.
And it even comes to the point, like, if you're still justifying it, that you think that you can improve nature. You think your plan is better than the universe's plan. And it's pretty easy to see that we can't move water without using pumps. We use pumps. Nature had a much better plan for that. We'll use mountains and gravity and keep the water moving like that. And then we put these dams in place. And I live on the Salmon River in a town named Salmon, and there's hardly any salmon here anymore.
No.
Yeah, because of the dams that are in place.
Yeah.
So that's sad that the kids that are born in a town named Salmon, the way things are going, may never ever see a wild caught salmon. I've seen video footage from 50 years ago where the river during spawning season is boiling with fish, and you could literally walk across fish all the way across the river if you chose to. There were that many salmon. We used to have grizzly bears here. We don't have grizzly bears anymore. There was a whole bunch of life, but the ecosystems upstream and downstream of those dams are dramatically affected.
Mm-hmm.
We could look at the Hoover Dam. There used to be an estuary in Mexico where the Colorado River just went steadily. And once they put that dam in place, thousands of species went extinct in that estuary in Mexico, extinct, never to be seen again. And it's cool that we have golf courses in the desert, right? That's way more important than all life on Earth. But we are definitely, it would be like if you were to just plug one of your arteries right there and see how long it takes for the rest of your body to decay. It won't take that long.
Right?
That's what we do whenever we put a dam up, we are blocking one of the arteries that the universe gave Earth to help with life, to create life and nourish life. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's like that joy, that excitement, that enthusiasm is the flow of the river. But then, like the fear, the doubt, the guilt, the shame, that's the stuff that dams the flow of the river. It blocks that flow. So when we're living in those states of fear and chaos and doubt and confusion, our rivers are not flowing. We are not going with the flow of life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. In fact, I'm writing a book right now called Don't Fight It, Just Write It.
Woohoo! I love that. Don't fight it, just ride it. I like that.
Yeah, it's definitely a go with the flow type of phrase, but it's also been my mantra through life. When I was shortly after starting my new life, I did ski patrol and I also taught ski lessons. And I was trying to talk to someone on a chairlift that I was giving ski lessons to, and they were being really mechanical about the way they were skiing, and it wasn't flowing, you know.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to get them to loosen up a little bit, you know. And that's one of my techniques to get people to loosen up. If they're adults, I would say maybe at lunch, go have a beer or a glass of wine. Not a bunch, but a little bit, just to because you're fighting it too much. You're fighting it too much. And one day I was like, don't fight it, just write it. And it felt right. And I was like, oh, this, and I never forgot that phrase. And it's worked through so many different scenarios, not just ski lessons, but all of life's uh, challenges that it throws at you. Whenever you resist, you get resistance in return. Whenever you fight something, it fights back.
Yes.
And whenever we just go with it, then things flow. Things flow a lot better. So don't fight it, just fight it became my mantra. And it's been, I don't know, 15 years at least that I've been using that. Now the universe made it clear that it's way more than just a phrase or something that I say whenever I'm trying to pick somebody up or teach them something. It's be the title of my book, and it's going to be the way that I introduce this concept through my eyes to the world. um,
I love that. And I love that, in both skiing and rafting, there's like if you're tree skiing or if you're rafting, we have to be able to focus on where it is we want to go rather than what it is we want to avoid.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. Focus on where you want to be, not where you don't want to be. Just like whenever you want to manifest things in your life, you focus on things you want, not the things you don't want. The same thing translates in the river, skiing, mountain biking, life, all of life. Focus on what you want. Whatever we focus on, we're going to get more of, right?
Exactly.
Worrying is literally just creating more of what you don't want.
Exactly. And then we're so programmed to look at the stuff that we don't want. It's like, oh, you have to avoid getting cancer. You have to protect yourself from all of these, and we're just shown all the rocks in the rivers. Like, don't go there, doink. Don't go there.
Right. Like, absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh my gosh, I love this. I love this that you're going to start a school because it's so important, especially now that we are at this shift of consciousness where we are moving out of the age of darkness and back into the age of light. You know, it's so important that all of humanity starts to reconnect to nature, because reconnecting to nature is really reconnecting to ourselves, is reconnecting to the universe, is reconnecting to how we flow through life. And it's just so important for people to really have this experience. I remember somebody on Facebook had posted something about, they had taken a walk in the woods and they were by themselves, and all of a sudden they were in the woods and they felt really, really afraid because they were by themselves. And they were posting about it, and they're like, you know, I don't know if I'm going to do this again or not, because you know, it was really pretty scary. And I remember sending a note back saying, you know, all of the trees, they're all alive, they're all here talking to us, they're all here sending love. And like, whatever it was that I said is like, you're surrounded by thousands of beings who actually love you. And he was like, oh my God, I never thought about that. And
Yeah.
I know that it, you know, kind of flipped a little switch, but we're not really taught about being in nature and how nature is here to love us and protect us and give us information if we know how to listen and have a conversation.
Yeah, I love that. And I had recently was uh I study a lot of near-death experiences and the things that happen to people that come back. And one of the ones I saw recently was a lady that she died, and as soon as she goes through her life review, the guides said, why weren't you, you know, more, why didn't you care about nature more? And her response was, why? And as soon as she said why, she was into a tree. She became a tree. She became a tree long enough to feel what it was to be a tree. And she came out of that with the story that trees are far, far more advanced than we are. She said trees just eat pure sunlight, you know, and they get their water straight from the ground. They don't need legs because they don't have to go chase food. They don't use the bathroom because they absorb all of their pure sunlight because they don't have waste. And then whenever they want to travel, they use their consciousness and travel with consciousness. They have all their friends are all around them all the time. And once you understand consciousness and can use it, you can travel wherever you want. You can go to other planets, galaxies, universes, because we are all part of the same consciousness. It's the whole freaking universe.
Exactly. This is, and like, I find that this trips people up so often because we're so convinced that we are these bodies, and that, you know, oh, that's just your imagination, you know, pretending that you were, you know, on Venus or Mars, or, you know, it's like, you can't do that, you know, you're right here, right now. It's like, no, we are non-physical beings and we can be anywhere we choose, and wherever it is we place our attention, that's where we are in that moment. Our
Sure, yeah.
physical body stays here on earth, it's part of the earth system, but our who we are as non-physical beings of light, we can be anywhere we want to be.
Well, this is a very convincing illusion
Yes.
all around us.
Yes. Right.
But yeah, I mean, these concepts, and I think thousands of years ago, they were taught in school. The consciousness, if we were teaching kids how to be in tune with nature rather than how much money they should make, the world would be so much better and everybody's lives would be easier, because everything else will happen once you're in tune with nature and things flow. You don't need to focus on where's the money going to come from. It's just going to happen because you're in flow. And money is energy also. And
Exactly.
energy flow. Um, And then if you do decide that, money is the only thing that matters because you need these things, you want to buy these material things, you're missing out on what your essence is. And your essence is nature. We the same process that creates our life, you can watch happen to every other animal on the planet that is where they get pregnant, born, and they have their life. We're not unique in that. We're not unique at all in that scenario.
Exactly.
And yeah, I'll leave it at, well, I won't leave it at that. I think that if we were teaching consciousness in grade school and to be, in tune with nature in grade school, then the world would be so much more beautiful right now. And I do think that there's a paradigm shift that I know that there's a paradigm shift that we're at the beginning of right now. And once we come on the other side of that, I do think that we'll be teaching about consciousness to grade school kids.
Yes, thank goodness. I remember being 5 and it was time to get shipped off to kindergarten, and like I did not want to go because I knew that's where the programming happened. And at that time, it was like the only thing I want to learn about is how does the universe work? That's the only thing I want to know because it's really the only thing that's important. And I knew that I was never going to learn that in school. So I felt doomed right from the start.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, takes work, but here we are.
Exactly. So if you can teach some of the laws of the universe to these kids, that'd be awesome. Law of one. We're all one life, living in all different iterations.
Yeah, that's the goal. And I'm going to try to do it not with words, but through experience.
Yeah.
Immerse them in that experience, and then just create awareness about everything that happens, because we're oblivious to so many magical things that go on. We just don't even notice, pay attention. Even a beautiful smell sometimes could be a really uniquely beautiful smell that some energy is trying to get acknowledgement, and I want to create the awareness that they feel it and then acknowledge it. And that acknowledgement, we like to be acknowledged too. We love it. Like, we all want to be heard, and we are just energy, which makes us the exact same as the energies that come from the earth. They also want to be acknowledged. I'm going to do my best to make that happen. And then I'm going to sit around the world. My hope is that this school takes legs of its own, and with the name Medicine River, original name I thought was going to be Salmon River Guide School or Guide Academy. But I love the Medicine River because the Shoshone called it the Medicine River. And then once I heard that, and every day after that, when I go to the river, I take that mindset with me about the medicine part of it, and just try to be conscious and aware of the healing that I'm getting every time I go to it. Just by calling it medicine, now that plants that seed that this is a place for healing, and it is very much so. And it's also generic enough that if people in other places like the idea and want to do a school like this, they can still use the name Medicine River, because all rivers are medicine. Exactly. Just like all people are shaman.
Exactly. I love this. So you're like building a blueprint for a school that can be replicatable anywhere in the world, probably.
Correct. Yes.
I love that.
That's the vision.
Hey, so I assume you're going to need many donations from people in order to make this school.
Yeah. In fact, we haven't even nailed down for sure the instructors. We have a couple key ones, but if anybody's watching this and has a skill set that they think could benefit what we're doing, please reach out. And it's got to be able to pass background checks like that, because of the kids, which for raft guides can be a difficult thing. Passing background checks and raft guides. Huh. There are a lot of very, very good people. rafting world.
Uh,
There are some that are running from the law and they're out in the middle of nowhere because they can't be found when they're on the river every day. We don't want those.
right.
And if you do want to reach out to us, a good way to do that is MedicineRiverAcademy at gmail.com. MedicineRiverAcademy at gmail.com is our email address. We're still in the early stages of getting the nonprofit going, so I don't have an avenue set up to receive donations just yet, but that's coming soon. We are going to go live with this school next June, so we have all the parts funding in place that we need to make that happen pretty soon. The nonprofit stuff just takes a little bit to get set up, and the status will be pending until sometime next year. So if I were to donate to something like that, any significant amount of money, I would hope to get the tax write-off in the same year that I donated it. So I probably will wait till January to start doing a lot of heavy fundraising, but we're definitely open to receive.
Absolutely. So if you're watching this show, check the show notes, because I will have the information in the show notes for you to be able to reach out to Matt and find out more about the school and how you can donate and help make this a possibility.
Yeah, or if you want to get your kid, if you want to find out how to get your children involved in the program or some children you know, you can email us there, or you can just give us a call at 208-756-4386.
2386.
4386, yeah.
Okay. Cool. I will make sure that I have those numbers right, and we'll put all of that in the show notes. So if you are watching on YouTube, remember to subscribe to the channel and give us a like. If you're listening on Connecting You to You Radio, just check out the show notes and all the links will be there, so you can reach out to Matt and find out more about this amazing school that he is going to start in Salmon, Idaho. This is very exciting. And I know there are going to be some amazing children whose lives are going to be completely changed by this. So
And it's going to be super fun. Like I'm looking forward to it because I want to go bang on drums in the woods with a bunch of kids too.
right. Well, I'll be talking to you about it. I don't know what I can do to help, but anything I can do to help, I am definitely on board. I think this is a very worthy project.
I'm sure the universe will put everybody where they're supposed to be to make this work as good as possible. Best possible outcome will happen.
That's it. You got it. Wow, Matt, thank you so much for being here today. It's been such a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you for having me, and I really hope that a lot of people do see this. And even if you don't care to participate in what we're doing, maybe you can start something like this where you are.
Exactly. Yes. And the name of your book for those looking next year when it comes out.
Yeah, don't fight it, just write it. And it definitely dives deep into the theory of going with the flow, but it's autobiographical, but not a biography. It's not the whole story, but it's definitely a bunch of stories from my life that I think will benefit the greater good, benefit the collective. And
yay.
yeah, I hope you like it.
Awesome. Matt, thank you so much. It's been such a great time. I hope you'll come back when your book comes out and we can do another chat about your book.
Absolutely, yeah, and we should do this again after the school is operating.
For sure.
We can talk about progress.
Yes, indeed. That would be fantastic. Love to do that.
Thank you, Lisa.
You are so welcome. And thank you to all of you who have been listening today for Solution Sunday. Being the soul you are is the solution. So you can see from the broader perspective and be who you truly are. So until next week, create for yourselves a great week. If you are looking for more information about me or what I do, you can find me at connectingyoutoyou.com. So until next week, create for yourselves a great week. Bye for now, everyone.